Unplugged, what we do since June. Every time we give an update on all the developments on lean and practical examples of how to implement it. At the other side of the ocean, we have DJ. Good morning, DJ. How are you?
Morning. Good morning.
A lot later over there than it is over here. We are just starting our day, and to my right side you'll see Bart, who's a colleague of mine, and also, like DJ, a lean expert specialized in creating flow. All right. Well, we have quite of a returning audience. So most of you know us, know Patagonia, know Makoto Flow. Makoto Flow is our partner in Japan, and we are based in the Netherlands. Yeah, today we're going to talk about the problem solving, one of the items in important items of the implementation of lean manufacturing. And here you see a picture of us joined together in Japan. So before we start the topic of today, I would like to share with you how wonderful the trip was, the journey was that we did in Japan all together, because we do this event every month, and we give you a spark of what lean is and might look like. And I know quite a few have a background in Lean Six Sigma, black belts, and these kind of titles. But I would really like to encourage you to have a thought about going to Japan for a trip with DJ, because then you can really experience what lean manufacturing means and what the Toyota production system actually is. So what we set up is a mutual cooperation to travel there and to visit the companies that have practiced lean manufacturing in a totally complete way, as we don't know that so well here in the Netherlands. So we talk about that later at the end of the show. In April we'll go again, so you are invited to join us for that journey. Then next slide please, DJ. Got it? Yes. All right, thank you. We are recording, but sometimes we cut something out, so there's no problem at all. So we do a 19-minute session now, 20 minutes in which both DJ and Bart will present the topic of today. I would like to ask you to shut off the microphone. They will do the run in one time, so one presentation in 20 minutes, and then we have all the time, 1.5 hours to relax, talk about this topic, problem solving, ask your questions, share examples, share anecdotes if you like, raise your questions, anything is possible because it's unplugged, so everything is fine. So that's the next 70 minutes then. For now, I would like to go through the presentation. So next slide, please, DJ.
Yeah, a little bit about myself. Obviously, I'm partners with Patagonia. They're my cool guys in the Netherlands, and we do a lot of work together. But I also have partners around the world, and this is just the extension of our 60+ kind of joint ventures that we have currently going. We have a similar framework as Patagonia. We love doing optimization consulting. We also take people on tours, as Jeroen kindly shared with you, and it is a powerful experience. We also have a coaching system. So I coach currently right now about 13 people globally. And we also like to, sort of dabble in getting people to learn TPS the right way through a training workshop type of deal. And also we have some digital solutions on, energy consumption, as well as on seeing plants globally, things of that nature. So everything is about optimization though. So our solutions are just about optimizing your business. So with today's theme, plan slowly, act quickly, we call in, that's one of the core pieces to daily shop floor management. Yeah. So we want to make sure that you understand that we have to have a mindset. We have to have the right words that we speak. And we also have to be able to put those words into actions so that you truly get the meaning of what Kaizen truly is. Yeah. As you can see here, both Bart, Jeroen, myself, as well as somebody who's not here at the moment, as Baldwin, we've been sharing these lessons now since I want to say July timeframe. And so we've gotten through 4 of them. Today we're talking about, solving issues quickly, and we like to call it PSAQ, which is plan slowly, act quickly. And the last session that we'll do as we move forward would be how to actually develop talent using the TWI methodologies as well as OPLs. Yeah. Okay, so as we move into this topic, as we're going to talk for about 20 minutes, we're gonna focus in on what truly TPS is all about. And a lot of people don't understand, but nothing in TPS is done in isolation. So when you see this system that's called the Toyota production system, it's really a philosophy, and it's about standardizing different things and making problems visible, and therefore solving problems is critical. Yeah. So when you look at this screen right here and you think of the TPS, the Toyota production system in itself, that's only one aspect of it, right? I mean, that's actually building the product right? This is how they go about doing it. And they make sure it flows, and they have all the and-ons and so on. But then there's the quality mechanism, where you actually have to develop a good quality system that reacts quickly and escalates quickly so that you can resolve problems at the lowest level. And then you also have a total maintenance program, total productive maintenance program, which means all of your equipment have to be managed in a certain way. And same thing there is being able to do that systematically in a standardized way so that your longevity of your equipment lasts. And then the last one is obviously people or talent development. Yeah, skill development, competency based. And all of these linked together help you grow people that can solve problems at the lowest level and work the system better. So it's truly an entire way of thinking and working. So when we look at solving issues quickly, we're actually looking at the team approach to problem solvers, creating that dynamic team of problem solvers. And this goes in alignment with the Toyota principle, number 5, build a culture of stopping to fix problems and to get quality right the first time. So when quality isn't right, you obviously raise your hand, pull the and-on, push the button, whatever it is to bring those people to you so that they can take a look at what's happening, and then they decide how to go about fixing it. And I love the quote here by Albert Einstein, we cannot solve problems with the same way of thinking that we used to do when we created them. Yeah. So we got to really change the way we look at a problem. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we frame that as well today. And I think it's very, very important. Second, very important thing is that what is a problem? We have to know what problems are. And so since the entire Toyota production system is based upon, standardizing things and then being able to visualize problems and then solve them, develop the talent to solve them, we've got to have some sort of standard that we sort of looked at. And so we're using the term standardization. And when we look at only standards themselves and how work is supposed to be done, we actually come away with like 3 basic problems. The first problem that we want to solve is when you have a standard, but nobody's actually achieving it. So there's something wrong with the way we're doing things in order to achieve the standard. And so we look into that problem. The second one is we've achieved the standard and now we've improved it. And so now we've got to create a new standard. And so what has to change? And that's another way of looking. That's more proactive approach, whereas the first one is more of a reactive approach. And then the third one is, let's say you have several people or you have a line and it's unbalanced. It's not meeting the standard consistently, whether it be the individual doing the work or whether it be the actual operations occurring. That is also another problem that we need to become more consistent at solving. Yeah. So we have to look at what is the cause and effect of all those things. And that's how we sort of break down and we say, that's what we think are the variabilities in problems. And these are the ones we want to focus on. Anything to add?
Yeah, I like to add that what we learned in Japan with you, DJ, when we were in Japan, here in Holland, or let's say now the Western industry, we make everything extremely complicated. I mean, I'm exaggerating, of course, but when we look at a problem, we all automatically think we need something like a lean green belt, black belt, I don't know what kind of level of education. We need complex Excel analysis, Gauss curves, and so on before we start moving. As what DJ presents here is the visualization of the problems, and that's what we can learn from Japan here in Holland. Just go to the shop floor, have a very good eye on what's happening there, have your visual management excellently implemented so you can actually see the problem and do something about it. And when you do it in that way, the foreman, the team leaders, the operators are able to solve maybe 60–70% of the problems without any black belt, without any manager, without any continuous improvement manager, just by going to the floor, look at it, and visualize the problem. We can learn that from Japan. That's what I learned from you, DJ, in Japan. Thank you. Please
Yeah,
continue.
you're welcome. In fact, spot on. Spot on. There's a lot of problems that can just be fixed, right? Just do it.
Yeah.
Get it fixed. You don't have to do analysis, right? So I love that you shared that. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we move forward too. So when we actually look at the benefits of actually solving problems quickly or using this thing called plan slowly, act quickly, we're actually talking about the benefit of time. Yeah. And so when you think about time cost money, time cost relationships, time cost, energy. So whether it's a piece of equipment using energy and it's down, it's costing people to repair it. Also, the energy is not being consumed, and it always adds up. So our thought is, how can we, have an understanding and a definition of a problem, and then how can we respond to it quickly? That's one of the true benefits of thinking in this manner. Yeah. And then the second thing is that we also want to have a standardized approach when we decide it's a problem that just cannot be fixed at that moment. There has to be a systematic way we go about doing it. And a lot of people like to put problems into projects so that they last weeks and months. But the idea is that most problems don't need to take that long to be resolved. Most problems, the answers are right there on the shop floor, as Jeroen was saying. And then the last thing is, when you take your time to actually plan it out, you actually get to more of the real root causes. So I'll talk a little bit about what I mean by taking the time to plan things out. And I think that's what hits the core of being able to solve problems quickly. So plan slowly, act quickly. The thought of it and about time is this is a typical kind of solutions chart that you see in most organizations. They identify the problem. They spend very little time planning it. They go right into analyzing it, to doing something. Yeah. And then they come up with a solution. It takes a long time for them to come to that solution, but when they put it in, it takes a long time to see results from that solution as well. So the idea between, the quick planning and then long delays to the final outcome is that you spend more time in the planning session and figuring out what to do and why to do it before you actually go and then do it and do some analysis on it. Yeah. And it really has changed a lot of organizations that I've dealt with, their mindset. I'll give you a good example. I was working with a Japanese manufacturer here in Japan that supports one of the big automotive companies in Europe. And every time I walked into their site, they were working on one problem. And they had this entire team working on one problem. They couldn't solve problems systematically together in unison. They had to pick one problem, take it to the 99th degree, and then, we got that done. So that takes, 5, 6, sometimes 8 months. And that's not fast enough for the European market. They want to resolve those things and move forward quickly. So when I taught them this kind of methodology, they started solving problems in months, like 1 or 2 problems every month. Yeah. And that allowed them now to move forward faster. We're not talking about perfection here. We're talking getting something to be better. Yeah. And that's the power behind this. Yeah. About rapid. Why do we like PSAQ? Well, first of all, it's based on PDCA, and you can see that the very first 5 steps are pretty much right there in the planning stage. We're looking and understanding before we execute. Yeah. But the second reason why we like it is it drives certain behaviors. And out of the 12 behaviors that the TPS system truly tries to change in people, there are about 4 or 5 of them that are linked directly to problem solving. And if you go down the list real quick, you'll say market in, flow, and pull. Those are problems. When you're not flowing, it's a problem. Yeah. When you go down to where you see overall optimization, that's a problem. There's wasteful things happening, right? When you go down to where it says make the problem visible, that's visual management so you can see the problems. When you see the one right below that, it says stop and fix the problem. That's the thought process that we're trying to push today. So a lot of these behaviors are actually centered around the problem-solving methodology. Yeah. If you change the behaviors, that means the way people think and they act, then of course your ability to solve those problems quicker has been enhanced. Yeah. And so when we look at the Toyota production system and what we call practical problem solving, PPS, this is their standard way that they go to the problem, break down the problem, set the target, analyze the root cause, develop countermeasures, all in the planning stage. Now, when you look at a problem from a very reactive or an analytical kind of perspective, you got to collect information in order so that you know what's happening on it. This is the right approach because you're digging deep in it. For example, when I was working in aerospace and we had these turbines, you know, the diameter of and the width of the blades are very, very important. And when they're off just by, you know, millimeters, that you really need to look at that in detail. And so this particular kind of methodology or some other like DMAIC, that works fine. But when you're looking for fast solutions, then we actually take some of these out. So what happens is we actually take out steps 2, 3, 4, and 5 and switch it around because we want to be creative. It's more proactive. So when you're not worried about actually the bolt issue, you want the bolts to go in better, then you don't have to study why the bolt's not going in better. You just need to come up with a new way the bolt goes in. And this is the method that we profess to help people become more creative. So instead of breaking down the problem, we start creating the future state, the desired future state. When we start talking about setting the target, we're actually brainstorming on how it should look, what it should do, how fast it should go, how quickly should this occur, vice the previous. And then we look at the fishbone from a way of what do we need to make that happen? So we know that we've identified the problem. We clearly specified it and it's measurable. So now what we're doing is what do we need to make this work? And then why do we need those core things to happen? And so we use it in a more proactive approach. And it's really, really powerful. And Baldwin was one of the guys that got to experience that in the MG group. So here's an example that when you do solve problems quickly, how you can put it on an A3 format and all of the sequential steps that are listed there on the 8 steps process, whether you're using an analytical form or you're looking at more of a creative methodology, so proactively, then you can still use the same form to get all the results that you need. And you can put all those items in there. Yeah. And last but not least, what are some of the key points? What I've found over the years, and I'm sure Yaron and Bart have experienced some of these themselves, is that a lot of people like to skip steps. They like to just say, you know what, we don't need 8 steps, we only need 4.
Yeah.
Well, the point of having the 8 steps is that you make sure you're really looking at the problem in a very sequential way. And if you skip some of that, you're going to miss some of the problem. Yeah. So that's very important. So don't skip the steps, right? And the other thing is, a lot of times, the second point here is, a lot of times when it's just do it, they still want to go through that formal process. And even though it's fast, because you know it's just a do it thing, you actually are wasting your time. So when you know something needs to be fixed and it's very quick and you can specify it and you can measure it, then go out and do it. Get it done quickly. Yeah. And then I guess the third thing is speed comes with practice. So when I talk about plan slowly, act quickly, sometimes planning is only taking a day. Yeah. You don't have to take a week or 4 weeks to plan things out because you want to get very analytical in it. You need to get good at this because you got to constantly do it. So repetition allows you to become very, habitual in your behaviors in solving problems. And that's what we got to get people to do. And one of the reasons why some of the just do it's, like the point I'm making above, is put into the format is just to get people to be aware that the problem solving methodology does work even on just do it's. Yeah. So take your time, practice with it, and it'll go great. And I think the next one is some insights from the Patagonia team over there on what they've experienced with problem solving. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you, DJ. Thank you for your introduction and theory. Yeah, just a case which we want to show to you. there's a problem in a machine manufacturing company, and it's called pothouder. You can see the picture over there. A cup is placed in so-called pothouder, and yeah, there are a lot of orders each week, and each product is made of 4 standardized parts. 84 different parts are available to make all kinds of combinations, so approximately 20,000 combinations are possible. But a lot of non-added value is required in the order preparation process and in between steps before they can weld the product. And there's also a high changeover time for each order. Small amounts, but relatively high changeover time. And our problem was that was a mix-up between orders because they all look alike, the parts. Only the sizes are a little bit different, and yeah, some mix-up occur, so rework has to be done. And last but not least, the lead time was relatively long, 8 weeks, but the demand of the customers is less than 4 weeks. So that was basically our problem to approach. Next slide, please, DJ. Okay, so yeah, thank you. So can we reduce the non-added value? That was our biggest problem to solve. Also rework and so on, but this was a huge one. And the ideas were coming up, and people said, "Okay, can we place the parts on stock? So we can reduce that non-added value." And also the mix-ups will be reduced. So that was the general idea, which was enhanced by all the cooperative people. But the problem was we did not have sufficient space to store all those 84 parts. And then we made an analysis to examine which kind of parts are used most commonly. And that analysis showed us that if you use 39 parts, that is 46% of the total of 84 parts, then you can make 86% of all combinations which are needed by our customers. So that was the idea to store those 39 parts locally at the welding department. So then 86% of all orders can be made. We made also a return on investment calculation by doing this. That was on the right-hand side, and you can see even with the investments needed, the return on investment was 1/3 of a year. Next slide, please, DJ. So the group who was participating in this problem solving was the production manager, the foreman of the department, business intelligence analyst, the laser cutter welder, order preparation employee, and last but not least, the quality manager, cash manager. So that was the whole group who was participating in this problem solving. Over there, you can see the one of the parts just needed for those pothouder. Next slide, please, DJ. Okay, so the solution, 39 parts should be in stock, so to speak, at the welding department. And at the picture, you see a special cabinet which is placed for this. And those 39 parts are in a 2-bin system placed in that particular cabinet, which is at the shop floor, at the welding department. So if an order comes in, it can go directly to the welding department, and the welder can pick the right parts from that cabinet. We had also some labor things to address. For example, in the Netherlands, there's a labor standard that you cannot pick up more than 50 kilograms. That's a labor standard. So each bin is restricted to up to 15 kilograms. The replenishment of all bins is approximately every 2 weeks. So we could make that more faster, but for now, this is very fine. And without order preparation involved, this in fact is some kind of a Kanban system, because the empty bin is placed back to the laser cutter department, and they will cut the parts and bring it directly to the welding department. So order preparation is totally cut off. The lead time of that replenishment is 1 week, so more than sufficient with the approximately 2 weeks replenishment of the bins itself. Standard operating procedure has been written in cooperation with all the people and implemented, and is audited as well by the quality manager. This was a starting point to make 86% of all the needed products with a shorter lead time, because the lead time was now reduced to 3 weeks. But more improvements are made by 5S sessions in the welding department as well the laser cutter department, to improve this problem solving and this idea, and to improve it even further. So thank you. This is our
practical case. Thank you. Can you go to the next slide, DJ? Yes, this is the moment for the unplugged session. So I would like to ask you to unmute your microphones, and we have an open discussion. You can switch on your camera. Real quick on what DJ and Bart just presented, what you saw in the presentation of DJ, the 8 steps and the way you can follow those steps. I want to make the attribution that you need to implement such a system, right? Those 8 steps are not just done from Friday to Monday. You need to train the people, you need to implement it, you need to make sure that the managers are aware of how the system works. And just as DJ just explained, and what Bart just showed, is that we really get here the questions at the office that somebody calls us and say, yeah, we want to do problem solving. Oh, that's fine. Yes. What's your approach? Oh, well, we just want you to train the people. Yeah, and what about the management and who is involved and what are the other stakeholders and how are you going to implement it in your organization? No, that's not important. We just want to learn the 8 steps. Well, this is really a frequent question that we get more or less every month. And it doesn't work that way. So you saw both in the presentation of both the gentlemen that you need more than just 8 steps to get it done, to implement it. But we will go into that during our discussion, which starts now. So please raise your electronic hand if you have a question, if you have to share something, you have an experience. Please step forward digitally, and we have a good conversation.
Yeah, let me add something while we're waiting for someone to raise their hand. Yeah,
please.
A lot of times when I go into an organization, I do receive the same thing you were talking about, Jeroen, about, hey, we need to just learn how to do a problem solving methodology.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if I do that with people, obviously I don't teach the methodology without it being a real problem. That's number one. So, and I take someone through usually in about a day and a half, and they know the process on day 1 pretty good, pretty solid. They dug into it. By the morning of day 2, they're finishing up what we would call, the action plan, which is all the way up to step 5 and then following through with it on step number 6, right? Before you can see the results, and then before you can actually standardize, that'll take a little bit longer. But the actual methodology is the 6 first steps. Usually takes about a day and a half for someone to go through it for the very first time. But by the end of the second day, they've already solved 2 problems. So that means they do another problem, and these are real problems. So we're not picking and choosing. We're saying, what are problems in your area? Let's go see it. Go to the Gemba, go see, and now let's come back and understand truly what the problem is. Yeah. And then so I just wanted people to understand that this is not something that takes 5 days or 6 months like the DMAIC. You got to take 1 month in every process or something of that nature. At least when I went through it, that's how it was. It doesn't have to be that way. You can actually learn this process fairly quickly and move forward. Yeah. So
wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Gagana, please.
Hi, so I need to say that I'm constantly learning from DJ, and from the moment when I've heard him teaching practical problem solving till now, I realized that I've been doing many mistakes. For example, first of all, my problem was not correctly defined. And although I was thinking that I can figure out what's the problem, I learned that the correct definition is crucial. And then the second thing is the mistake that I've been doing is to dig too much in the root cause or the issue and to go in the direction for analysis of the problem. And maybe my question now to DJ is, DJ, how you manage to teach people to do practical problem solving in a positive way? How you manage
great,
to do
great
it in a
question,
positive and constructive way? Thank you.
You got it. You got it. Great question. Thanks for asking it. First of all, I think what you experienced, Gergana, is what a lot of people experience, and not defining the problem first. So when you clarify the problem, remember we use that SMART objective that I spoke about, which is specific, measurable, accountable, relevant, and time dimension. Yeah. So for the problem, all you need to have is something very specific and measurable. And as Bart was demonstrating in his, he had several measurements. You could have picked any one of them then and still had a good, clear definition. Yeah. So that's what everybody experiences. So how do I go about getting people positive about a problem? I actually take the proactive approach. I instead of digging into the analytical tools like the 7QC tools exist, right, to help you with quality control, understanding histograms, control charts, those type of things. That takes time sometimes. So when you want to teach people how to be creative and spontaneous in resolving issues at the lowest level, I take them through the other one that I shared with you on the screen. In fact, I'll bring it up real quick so you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yes, it's there.
Okay. So to your point, Gergana. Yeah, to your point, Gergana, I take them through the version that says proactive and innovative. And what that does is it makes people not get stuck in the mud, not get frustrated with the problem itself. They just look at the problem and say, okay, well, for example, Bart's was 8 weeks and they need it in 4. So the problem is we need to get it in 4 weeks, less than 4 weeks. That's what we got to do. We've got to be able to deliver these products in 4 weeks. Now, then I go to the second stage. How does that look, right? How does that look from new ideas, from new ways of working? And people get very creative with it then. And so I help them affinitize their ideas. They come around with topics, and then they start to say, okay, this is the most important one. We're going to try implementing this. That's how fast it goes. And then by that 4th step, I get people to say, all right, so this is the one you want to implement because this is what you selected. What in a fishbone diagram, from manpower, machines, equipment, materials, right? Methods. What do you actually need to make that work? And then we come up with a solution of what they actually need. And then we start analyzing that solution. Yeah. Through the 5 whys. Why do we really need that? What is why is it important for us? And we ask 5 whys very particular way in order to get to the root cause that we're now resolving. Because what we start out with and what we end up with through that root cause analysis usually is slightly different. And everybody goes, wow, we're actually going to be able to get it to 2 weeks now, because they pick the right thing to try to implement. So that's how I get people energized. Yeah. And once they learn that, they realize, the quality department or the real, let's say process engineers or electrical engineers or technical engineers, you name it, they can do the problem solving in detail, in deep, when it's something like that. For someone who's out on the shop floor, let's just try to figure out how to make it even better. And you'd be surprised at all the great things that happen there. That's how I do it.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Yeah, definitely. Good question, Gagana, because you're confronted in practice with several issues. So what I always do is first take a simple project. So note, not the most difficult one, because you get stuck in issues. Also not the most simple one. So you choose smart for the first time a problem which you can estimate like, all right, we can do it. Will be maybe challenging, but we can do it. Because we have to keep in mind that it is it's a competence you have to develop. It's not, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to do problem solving, but you need some practical experience. So you need the experience of understanding a question, of defining a problem, of seeing something new. What about cooperation? How you listen to each other? All these kind of things come together in a problem solving process. So don't overcomplicate it. Just make it doable so that people can actually experience every step in the process. So that's the first thing that I always do. The second thing what I always do, and that's maybe interesting for you, is before we start with problem solving, I always make a list with the group of the potential problems that we might encounter during the process. And then I mean resistance, I mean lack of information, I mean managers that do not cooperate, all these kind of things. Because we look at an ideal, the method is fine, you know, the Toyota production system way is fine, the 8 steps are fine, but the whole environment is a whole different story. As consultants, we don't step into an organization where everything is TPS perfect. No, far from that. So you are confronted with departments that do not want to work together. They are working on an island. You are confronted with there's a lack of information. You are confronted with not enough knowledge about problem solving. So I first start making with the group a list on the whiteboard. What might be a problem during this process, an organizational problem? So we list them, and then they understand during the problem solving process, okay, so we can encounter this issue. And when we do, well, let's deal with it. So they are not surprised anymore. They knew upfront what to encounter, and they start dealing with it. So that gives a positive, more energetic way of working, and understanding upfront what is going to be encountered in your process. So that's what I do.
And may I add something to that, Jeroen? Jeroen started with selecting the problem. Don't select a problem which is doable. And DJ uses also in the slides in a free form pain and gain, high pain, high gain. And so you can make a matrix, simple matrix of 4 quadrants, pain and gain, and you can place all your issues, all your problems, which has to be solved in that matrix, and then you can select, for example, a simple one with low pain, maybe low gain, but that is a problem for new employees which are not used to problem solving yet. So a low gain, low pain, easy. Maybe the gain is not that high, but they can practice with the methodology. So then you can, in this matrix, you can select properly, so to speak.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful.
Excellent. I love what you guys said there, because, you know, a lot of times when I go in, and I'm never confronted with one problem. I'm always confronted with several problems. So the pain gain chart is the perfect way to sort of go through the garbage, if you may, and say, okay, this is what we have time to actually solve. Yeah.
I see some more people smiling, good. So I think your remark is recognized, DJ.
Yeah.
All right. Who wants to raise the next question? Who has an experience to share? Or a question? Bas, any experiences?
Well, not because we're not in a production area, but sometimes I experience that when I have a meeting, for example, with our forwarder, with our carrier, and then upfront I have a meeting with my team, and then I'm saying, okay, next week I have a meeting with the carrier, and then a lot of issues, a lot of problems they come up with, really small things, but then I'm feeling they're placing it all with with me, and I have to deal with it. And well, something I'm struggling with. I want to involve my team more with that they can solve their own issues. So that's something I'm struggling with. So maybe you have some new information for me that I can help to deal with that more. So they don't place all the problems at me and I have to solve them, but they can pick up some of the issues themselves.
And I think, boss, that's a very important point. Is a lot of cultures are designed where you become this leader or this manager, and everybody just goes, here, you solve it. I'm here just to work. You know, when the reality of the Toyota production system, when you're developing the talent, it's about getting everybody to be problem solvers while working. And that's the sort of the mindset that's different. And that's hard to change in a lot of cultures because people feel that that's not what they're paid for. Yeah. But the reality is once you get it ingrained and you get it into a team, then the team starts to resolve issues. I did this in a procurement entity in Philips, and they were making defibrillators, right? And the procurement team had to get all of the different parts and those type of things. And once they put the problems out, once they went through their sequential steps together as a team, everybody started to say, listen, I can do that for this, and I can do that for that, and I can do that for that. Individually, we can do it too. It doesn't necessarily have to always be with a team, like Bart's example was. Sometimes it can be done by one or two people, and it just keeps rolling, you know. I've done this in casinos and hospitals, in logistics centers, distribution centers. There's all sorts of different problems. When you get there, when you get them involved, you get more commitment to helping you resolve the issues. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe to add, in our example, we showed you that 86% of the products could be made with 39 standardized products parts in stock. So we accepted the fact that we could not solve the problem for 100%, but it was an improvement as well. And what the result was of this solution was that 14% of products which were not on stock were easier to handle in the current way of the process with the non-added value. But no mix-ups were occurred in those 14% because it was a small amount. And the lead time of those 40% was even faster than that 8 weeks. It came up to 4 weeks as well. So solving the problem for, in our case, 86% solved the rest in the after how do you say afterwards it solved that already also for a big part.
Yeah.
So don't want to solve the problem for 100%. That is a typical European mindset. We want to solve the problem for 100%, and then you get mixed up in all kinds of details and you're not going fast. And what DJ is saying, move fast.
When we
you know, everything in let me add to that real quick. Everything in TPS, even the structure of the teams changed because they had to do quicker problem solving. So instead of having a team of 1 to 20, like one leader and 20 team members, now they have anywhere between 1, 5, and 8, which means one team leader for 5 to 8 people. Because the smaller area of focus that you have, the easier it is for you to resolve those problems that matter to that team. And if you have multiple problems occurring, and your team is large, like let's say 20 or 45 people, you can only solve one of those problems at a time. So the more team members and more team leaders that you have organized in smaller groups, you're able to solve more problems over the value stream or over your value chain. Yeah, and that's critical as well.
Yeah, definitely. To give you some inspiration, boss, when we were in Japan last month, we visited a company called Toto, a production company, and I was truly impressed. We were showed around by the general manager, and he showed us on the shop floor everything, and he knew everything. So every detail, every improvement, every little things they changed to make the process better, he understood, he was aware of it, he was involved, and so were the foremen and the operators. So whoever you talk to, they all were involved in this problem solving or process improvement, however you want to call it, in this Kaizen-like events. So that was truly impressive. And then when I looked at my own country, I think, oh, we are so far away from that, that culture. That really another universe. But what you can do is make it very small. So instead of looking up to the managers who do not do their work properly, you can also look at your own team and say, all right, I have a small team. Let's start with my own team. And let's motivate them and give them the authorities and the responsibilities to actually start working on process improvement. Whether that's via a formal method or not, doesn't matter, as long as it starts. So here in Holland, we have the issue that we prefer to sit back and do nothing or be careful rather than step forward and try something and experiment and do something. So it's hard to get the whole organization with you in this problem-solving thinking, but what you can do is make it small, look with a few people to simple problems and start over there. That's doable.
And I also like the idea of the matrix. That's yeah. Then you have all the problems in the matrix, and then you can say with your team, okay, what are we going to solve next? So that's
that's
good idea.
And you can make your own definition about what is high gain and low gain.
Yeah.
You can make that definition by yourself.
Yeah.
Let's go to Wilco. You raised your hand.
Yeah, I have a question. If you created a team on the lowest level with problem solving, do you still use the statistical analysis? Because some problems are really small, and do you measure it? Do you hypothesis test it, or then you make it? I think you make it bigger than it is, but you still have to measure it, I think.
Yep.
Yes. Who wants to take that one?
No, I can take that one. Thank you, Wilco.
Yeah, go ahead, Bart.
Great question. Yes, I think you always have to have some kind of measurement, because otherwise the problem is assumed or could be assumed, and assumption is not always correct. But the depth of the analysis could differ, because sometimes it's small counting, and then you have a measurement. And sometimes you have to do a statistical analysis. Is it a normal distribution or something like that? That depends on the problem, I think. But the easier you can make your measurement, the better it is.
Okay.
But I think you should have
So
some kind of
I would add.
Yes, DJ, go ahead.
Absolutely, you have to, but I want to add something. I think what he asked was, do you still want to do the statistical probability kind of comparisons? And I don't believe every problem requires that. Yeah, there's a, when you do project management and you see problems, you have what is called simple projects and complex projects, and it's the same with problems. You have simple problems and you have complex problems, and the that I look at is usually 99 tasks or less are just simple. They're things that can be resolved simply. But if it's more than that, then usually it's 100 or more. That becomes more complex, and it should be escalated to the right people to do that kind of analysis. But I always collect. In fact, while you guys were talking, I brought up something that I did in the Netherlands that I would like to share, so you can see how I take an event of doing value stream mapping, linking problem solving to it, so you can see how that all comes together, and it's done within 3 days. Yeah. So it's not something that takes, weeks to get done, and people have an action plan with it. So if you don't mind, I'd like to share that real quick.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is what we create, what is called, a collage of the journey. Yeah. Of whatever they go through. So is everybody seeing it now?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. So here's the reason why we're doing this. It's simple: sense of urgency, commitment, right? Understanding and improvement, and making a plan for that. Yeah. And so first I have to teach people the value of things. Yeah. So the very first day we spend time and we learn what is value added, what's not value added, what's waste. And then we go through an exercise called catchball that takes into consideration 3 basic things. You have a goal that you're measuring yourself by. You have a lead time that you're measuring yourself by. And then you have defects that you're measuring yourself by. And that happens in all businesses, whether you're in marketing or you're in, you happen to be in legal and you're putting together legal documents. How many times does it come back and forth, those documents? Yeah. So it's the same thing. It's the same principle of how it all works. And then, of course, we started to go see the area that we're at. I won't go through all of that, but the point is, I start taking them through what we call value stream mapping, and it's the process of value stream mapping. I won't get into detail of this, but you can see that it's systematic. Right now we're on the 6th step, then we go to the 8th step. But now when you get to the 8th step, notice what happens. We start to transition into seeing the waste in the value stream and plotting it. How difficult is it to get out of, like Bart was talking about, and what is the impact of removing it? Yeah. And then because of that, we start to decide what are the problems. And you can see how the problem is identified in step number 1, step 2, step 3 on the board. Then you do your others as you continually move down through the process. And now you've got problem solving related to what you're doing. Yeah. And that's how then eventually you do the changeovers better, you stack it differently, blah, 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 blah. But you can see all of these steps are linked together so that you can resolve the issues and know why you're resolving it. And there's measures to it. There's never a problem without a measure. So that's important what Bart was saying too. And then, of course, that's what you see on the overall. You see, you got the value stream maps, you've got the layout, you got all the 15 problems identified, 6 problems highlighted to be solved, systems to deploy and solving those problems, because they all went through that kind of thing together and they all know why. Yeah. So I think that's what's important. It's not just a problem. Let's go solve it using this methodology. It's always linked to things. I do, communication cells and I link it to problem solve, going to the Gemba. So your communication cell performance, how do you improve your performance? Go to the Gemba, see something that's not performing right, solve that problem, go through the 8 steps. Yeah. So it's always linked. It's never done in isolation.
Definitely.
It's a great point, Wilco.
Yeah, definitely. And in addition to that, Wilco, people seem to be afraid of statistics, but they really shouldn't. I mean, the first of the 7 tools is just a start to count something. That's statistics. That's it. So it's simple. So break it down to simple. Don't make it complicated. If yesterday I trained 2 groups of foremen and team leaders. I explained statistical process control to them. It took me 20 minutes and they understood. Of course, I'm not going to draw the formulas of the standard deviation, but that's not important to them. They need to understand that there's variation. Well, you can simply do that. I always take the example of driving from your home to your work, and then I ask, how long does it take? Well, 30 minutes more or less. More or less. So an average of 30 minutes. So let's do that 1,000,000 times. Will you ever get exactly the same time? No, of course not. So in 20 minutes, they understand statistical process control. So make it simple, make it likable, make it fun. That helps a lot.
Yeah.
All right, where's the next question?
Good advice.
Thank you. There's a little bit of delay on the line, I noticed, but that's okay. George, if I pronounce it correctly, please go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So far, Gergana invited me today here to join your group, let's say, and I actually have one question.
Yes.
I was listening a lot about like statistics, figures, metrics, and everything. But can you share, based on your experience, have you ever had a problem or a micro project? Let's not discuss the complex big projects that you only your guts dictated what to do. No metrics, no figure, no anything. Because I can say from my experience as an industrial project manager that sometimes this is the way. Like what your intuition, what your experience, what your expertise is telling you, but you cannot actually form it in digits. You cannot express it like in a formal way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So that's pretty much
Great question. And yeah, great question. Thanks for asking. And is it George? Is that how you say
Yeah,
it?
it's George. It's Georgi actually. It's the Bulgarian version of George, but yeah,
Okay.
you can call me George.
Okay, cool. I can't speak Bulgarian.
It's okay. It's okay.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. There you go. I'll learn some of it for sure. But I guess what I would say to you is, you know, when you're only focusing on the outcome of something, which means customer demand, yeah, you can formulate that into some sort of metric. And we in the TPS world, we like to use that in either processing time or cycle time or lead time or turnaround time. So we like to focus in on time. Yeah. So how if I'm putting 1,000 of those out, how long did it take me to do those 1,000? Yeah. And if there's 999 that are good, but one is bad, that's an easy type of measure to say, okay, you have a 1% kind of defect rate or rework rate, right?
Yeah.
So everything can be formulated, but not everything needs to be formulated into that. Okay. But it doesn't, your problems all have to have a measure. So somehow you have to connect something to it to know that you got better. Without that measure, without something connected to it, you never know if you got better. That's why standards are so important. You know where the standard is. If there's a gap between the standard, you know you're not achieving it. If you go over the standard, you know you made too many. You know you did something wrong because the standard says it should take this long. And if you're going over it, you're doing something different. Yeah. So that's why it all exists. So I would say to you, everything that I've come across in my 35 plus years of doing continuous improvement, I've always come across people say, I don't know how to measure that. That's okay. That's fine. But I guarantee you there's a way to measure it. Yeah.
All right.
You just got to be creative in thinking about it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Can I actually add something small to this question? It was actually about, for example, because this happening a lot in my career, like the metrics, the historical data with the work with a particular supplier are not good. Like they failed in lead times, sometimes they failed in quality, for example. But for this particular, let's say, machine, based on the phone conversation and based on their how can I say, based on their confidence, see how they're confident about this, I choose to work against the metrics, against what is actually the historical data is showing, the comparison table, which is, price, lead time, and everything is showing. And sometimes I chose this supplier against the metrics, and I was correct. Of course, sometimes I was not. But based on my experience, sometimes I, listen to my guts and say, all right, here, this is the right decision. And how can you formalize this at the end in front of the customer that you, based on the metrics, you choose the wrong decision, but at the end, this saves the day.
Yeah. So sometimes you've heard the scenario 80-20 rule. You work on 20% of the things and fix 80% of the problems, right? So what you're doing is you're going with your gut, and being an experienced person, your gut is 80% right. So when you know something is not going the way it should, you can actually still do something to make it even better. And the second thing I would say to you is you're absolutely right about what's in the system sometimes does not tell the truth. Most SAP systems, ERP systems that I go into and I get data from it, I know it's not 100% accurate. I know it's probably 70, 75% accurate. And so I use that just to make a move, to decide to do something. And sometimes you look at the numbers like, nah, that's not right. I know it's not right. So you go with your gut. No problems with that. But when it fails, you should have a metric that shows why it failed. So what I tell people is, what's in systems, don't worry about it. Start collecting today and see it for 7 days. So now you got statistical data for those 7 days. Now, true, it's not a year. It's not 365 days, or 52 weeks, but it is at least a perspective that you can now work off of. So a lot of times I ask people to collect very specific information before I go do something with that particular machine or that situation, just because of the now. I don't care about the past, because the past is probably wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for sharing this.
I like to formalize it. I love to formalize it. Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Maybe a different example, but similar. 2 days ago, I was with a company and we trained the team leaders, and there were day start boards, and they were very proud because they had day start boards and they worked with it, and everything went well. So I was impressed. I said, "Oh wow, let's look at it. Can I have, can you show it to me?" So we went to the factory, to the day starts, and they were talking about the day start board. But actually, when we looked at it, there was nothing on it. They just stood there, talked about it. The team leader gave instructions. He had a map in his hand with orders and some other data, and they really thought they were doing the things right. Honestly, but there was nothing on the screen behind. A few charts, but not really what you would expect. So what I want to say is, people sometimes think they do it right. But if you make it measurable, if you make it visible, then you can go a step further. And if you do everything on gut feeling, and which helps, of course, to get a start, but you need to show something to understand, hey, this is not right. They think it's right, but it isn't. So you needed to change the mindset of the people. That's what I want to add.
Absolutely. And,
yeah.
And there's a question I always like to ask. When somebody says I can't measure it, the question I ask is, so what matters most about whatever this is? Yeah, what matters most? And then they will tell you what matters most. Like, it's got to go out the door at the end of the day. It has to go. We can't go home unless it goes out. But they have no measurement of that, right? But now you know what matters most. And then you can work on making that easier, simpler, safer, faster. Yeah.
Definitely like that one. Yes.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the KPIs. That's the beauty of the KPIs, because whatever you cannot measure, you can just put number of attempts divided by the number of failed attempts divided by the number of total attempts. So you can always have this as a KPI.
Sure.
Yeah,
of course.
Sure. Yeah.
I always have likable discussions with top management leaders. They think that leadership is not measurable. Well, nothing is less truth. Let's count the number of decisions that you take, and let's count the number of actions that you took, and per day or per month, and just number it, and then you see, oh wow, one decision this month and nothing done. Well, I can count your leadership talents. They don't like that always, but it's necessary. All right, we have the next question, please.
Well, you know,
yes,
I want to add something to that.
Yes, please.
I was in a very large casino in Macau. It's the biggest one in Macau, and I was talking to the leadership team, and I was doing the value added, non-value added, and waste, right? Circle about work, and they all started to laugh, and they said, "Wow, it looks like we're in the non-value added category." And I was like, "Absolutely." I didn't smile. I didn't laugh. I just said, absolutely. Leadership is a non-value added thing, but it's required for business. It's required to point in a direction. It's required to communicate. It's required to be there when they need you. It's required for you to think about how to get capital to help the business. It's required for you to fix the problems that they're experiencing. But you may not do that yourself, but you should be able to organize to help that happen. And then you become business non-value added, but at least you're creating something positive. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that one. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I can add something to the previous question about measurements. We're doing a problem solving training at a particular company, and their yield is about 85%, so not that high. And they measure all the rejects, the discarded products. And they have several categories to say whether or not it is good. So, for example, color or scratch or something like that. And they said, oh, okay, we did examine our rejects, and the top 5 of problems is color and scratch and whatever. Okay, good. But did you measure that correctly? Because I asked them a question about quality control. How are they measuring that? do they have a standard operating procedure to measure something? Do they always measure color first or scratch first or something else? Because the first defect is occurring or checked, that will be the mark on the reject. So if you are, for example, testing color first and then scratch, but somebody else does it counterwise, you have a different kind of yield in the categories. But the same product could have even more problems because
Multiple.
Multiple. If you're
Right.
if you are rejecting it on color, maybe the product has also a scratch or whatever. So maybe your analysis of rejects is not correct. The total yield is correct, 85%, so 15% rejects, but the categories which you are hoping to improve by problem solving could be the wrong one, because you think this is the biggest issue, but underneath there could be another one. Is that clear?
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful. Good example. Wilco.
And you know, before we go to Wilco, let me just add to something to that.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
In fact, I was working with a company here that did exactly that, Bart. They had a quality control sheet. It was about the size of your hand, and it had 7 categories on it. And if you looked at all those things, it was the very first category was always being ticked, right? So why did you have the other 6? Because you're not looking for it, because you already looked, you found one, you're done. It's a reject. I don't have to worry about it. Yeah. So instead of taking the time to look for all of those categorical things, then you would have better information. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Cool. Wilco, sorry about that.
Yeah, we had an experience with in the company with switching from an old production line to a new production line. Do you use the same methodology in analyzing when you put a new production line? Or is it a different
I would
way?
say, first of all, what we're talking about practical problem solving is when the line is, you know, it's already been, the engineers have laid out everything. They've looked at all of the possible hotspots. They've got people to manage those hotspots. And when something happens in those hotspots, that's when the practical problem solving comes in. Absolutely, they still use the same thing. Now, there's other methodologies like 8Ds for the design, and you're going through that process in order to design the right kind of new production system. That's different because it's more complex, remember? So we're talking about things that are on scale, can be managed by people in the workforce, not in new product introduction, not in new line or production lines, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes we had a problem with the old production line, and they put a new production line in, but the same problem still exists. So it didn't solve the problem.
Okay.
And that's usually because they gave it to a bunch of engineers and said, we got to fix this problem. And so they came up with a new idea to go put it in place, right? Instead of really looking at the problem.
It's all of the engineers.
Wilco, a funny story though. I had a plant manager that had his shop floor desk on the production line, okay? And engineers would come into his office and he'd go, have a seat. And he cut off the first 2 inches of the chair so the chair leaned forward. Basically, when you sat the lid off of his chair. And he goes, so if you sit down, you don't know the problem yet. That was his whole methodology. If you're going to take a seat, you want to talk about the problem. And he's not there to talk about the problem. You're an engineer. Go out there and tell me what the problems are and what some of your solutions are. So it was really cool how he did that. So
nice.
I recently heard Elon Musk saying that engineers bring solutions for problems that doesn't exist. So I hope there are not too many engineers in the audience. We perhaps should talk a little bit about the Japan GLIT tour, DJ. Is that an idea?
Yeah, let me just bring that up real quick again. Yeah. we already have 7 people locked into coming to this, plus some people hopefully from the Netherlands, and that's why we're sort of bringing it up today. This forum is a great forum just to share the value of coming to Japan, experiencing what we call the big harmony, and then understanding truly what all of the systems are in isolation, and then how do they actually work as a system together in unison. And I will tell you, if you bring 1 or 2 people to this tour, those 1 or 2 people from the same site will be totally different for that site forever. It's just one of those life-changing things. It's an excellent experience for any practitioner, for any leader that is trying to be a part of a transformation or even a project, so they understand how they can play a role in making success with optimization. Yeah. It is 1 week long. We ask that people show up on a Sunday. That'll be the 20th, and then we go to the 21st through the 24th as the week, and we travel and we see 5 to 6 different companies. But we have 2 and 3 hour sessions afterwards about what we learned, why they're unique, how did it happen, why what were some of the unique the core activities they put in place in order to be successful with it, so that you walk away with a really good action plan at the end of the week in A3 that allows you to go back and not only show your experience through a collage that we will provide to you, but also an in-depth discussion with the other leaders of your organization and the other practitioners of your organization that are trying to optimize. So obviously that action plan we try to do for senior leaders 30 days and for operational leaders 90 days. So if you're a senior leader, we want you to implement something in the next 30 days. But if you're an operational kind of guy, we give you a plan to help you implement over 30 days. I mean, over 3 months, which is 90 days. And of course, you'll walk away with understanding not only what TPS is about and how to help get other people involved, but I think you'll walk away with a life-changing experience that you'll be able to share with everybody that you ever come across and they want to make. In fact, this week, I just yesterday I came back from Osaka and I visited with one of my Polish colleagues from Poland, and he was here for the first time in Japan, and so he's planning to come back in April with us as well, because he wants to, what he saw in visiting the one company that he came here for, which is a supplier of his. He was just like, wow, I need to really understand this in more detail. So he's going to bring a cadre of people as well. But we hope to see you guys there. If you're interested, get with Jeroen or Bart or even Baldwin, and I'm sure they can share their collage and with you so that you can get a better understanding of how the week flows and how it actually works. Yeah. Anything you guys want to add?
Yeah, well, it flows definitely. You see the picture on the right side, the train, the super fast train. It goes with something like 300 kilometers an hour. So with that speed, we went through Japan. DJ guided us, and we went from Osaka to Nagoya to Tokyo to some other places I can't even pronounce. But anyway, it was quite impressive. And so you travel with this high speed. You sit a few hours in the train, and you do another visit. So that goes on from Monday to Friday, and in between you have all the lectures and the theory and the examples and the Hansai session. So it's really full program, and it will exhaust you, but you're fully loaded with energy after the end of the week. That's for sure. That's what we experience.
Yep.
So that would be my contribution on this. Yes, please.
I want to add something. Yeah, I just want to add something. I think it's very important to know that we don't just see manufacturing plants. Okay,
No,
so
yeah.
sometimes we go into cleaners, sometimes sushi restaurants, different type of environments where it's all being applied. Okay, so it's not just a manufacturing setting. One thing I do like to try and do is have the Toyota perspective understood with the supply chain, so you understand how they work in unison as a web. But then after that, we like to see how other people have adopted it in their unique type of businesses. And I think that's crucial, so that you can see that when we say no involvement, no commitment, you can see how people did get people involved and how they are committed to continuing doing business this way, because it's even if it's a different business. Yeah. So I think that's very important.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can read 1,000 books about the TPS or lean or whatever you like, And when you are 1 week there, you instantly understand why the 8 steps of problem solving work, or the Kaizen works, or the day start works. That's
The
what
commission buy or the
the commission buy.
and
Definitely, yes, yeah, that was a good one. All right, so you can, I think, stop sharing the screen. Is there a final question or comment? Otherwise, we're going to wrap up. And thank you for your time and your contribution, the questions you raised. I hope you learned a few things and can bring your the examples and the theory with you today to bring it into practice as soon as possible. Thank you very much. Thank you, DJ. Thank you, Bart.
Thanks for everyone.
Thank you.
See you next time.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, we're gonna do
Thank
another
you.
one, so we'll let you know when it is. All the best.
Yeah.
Thank you. See you then.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.